pattern I ordered from Etsy.com and printed it as a PDF file from my computer. When the file is uploaded, it looks like this. The cover page is the complete cross-stitch pattern, and then all the pages that follow are parts of a larger grid. So you would print them out, and then you would either staple them or tape them together to make the larger backdrop that you see here in the background. Now there are two printouts. There's a black and white one and a colored one. The black and white one is for computers that don't have color printers, and you would follow then a pattern variation to indicate color. Now, the color is obviously easier to follow, and I will show you now how I'm transferring this larger image to the smaller hoop size. Because the hoop diameter is small and the grid covers a vast space, I decided to count exactly how many squares I have to work with within the diameter of the hoop, which is 70. Now the center of 70 is 35, so I counted to 35, found my center, and did the same on the grid. Now when I did that, I noted a cross section in a square that I'd like to duplicate onto my hoop. I did that using a yellow highlighter. Then I made sure to space out my perimeter through counting 75, both down and across. Doing that and finding the center now shows me exactly what color pattern I have to duplicate on my hoop. So the center cross section shows a center square as being white, and then above that there are two white squares, followed by two purple squares, a single black square, 19 blue squares, two black squares, a purple square, and then 6 white squares above. I duplicated that exact pattern within the center line, following one color after the other as they are laid out on the grid. I did that using a color coordination through the color fabric markers. And you can see I've done this now for 6 of the lines, and I'm going to continue to work my way outwards and then go back to the center and work my way the outwards way, the opposite direction, until I have the whole area of this image imaged on my hoop. To begin your cross stitch, you're first going to thread your needle. For a tutorial on how to do this, please visit our YouTube channel and check out our easy embroidery videos. You're then going to make sure that you have a floss that's long enough to complete a fair parameter of this image, but short enough that it's not going to tangle each time you pull the floss through. You're going to want to notch the end of the floss, make sure the knot is large enough so that it doesn't pull through, and you're going to give it a little bit of a test tug before you begin. And you can see here I've already started with 3 stitches. Now you begin your pattern by starting on the far right with your purple thread or your purple floss, and the very first square is like all others as we go through, so I'm going to demonstrate the 4th one, which you can mimic in creating your first. So if you look closely, you'll see that each one of these squares has holes on the right bottom, the top right, the top left, and the bottom left. You're going to go in through the bottom right of the square, and this does take some patience, and you have to kind of have a good eye for it. It's not easy to locate if you're not looking close enough. And pull it through. Now you can see, if you look closely at this image, we're in the bottom right of one of the squares. Then you're going to do a cross diagonal to the top left of that same square, putting your needle in and pulling through. To create a diagonal stitch, you're going to do this all along the purple line that makes up the parameter of this image, until of course you run out of string, and then you just restring by reknotting and starting over. And when you get to the end, which would be down here, you're then going to go back over that same stitching, but this time crossing in the other direction for making another diagonal line, so as to make a cross, which is what we call our cross stitch. I'll show you how to do that as we continue, but I just wanted to give you an idea on how we get started. Now that we've reached the end of the purple line, we're going to put our needle back through the last square we completed, but this time through the bottom left hole. Pull it through and cross it over the line we had previously created, that stitch, by going into the top right corner of the square, pulling through to create an X or cross. And you're going to do this for each square that you had just completed. Each stitch is now going to be crossed over from the opposite direction. Now that we've completed the full purple cross stitch line, we're going to move on to the lighter blue line for cross stitch. We're going to use the same methods as before. Find the first square closest to the right of the pattern, and then you're going to poke the needle in through the back in the right hand corner of that square. Pull through and then do a cross over the square to the top left circle or corner and pull through. And you're going to do this for each of the blue indicated squares, the light blue I should say, as there is also a dark blue pattern. And just go through the line as we did before. We will then, at the very end, when we get down to the bottom, we will then reverse the order and do the opposite stitch. I've made my way all the way to the end of the blue line, and now I'm starting to do the cross opposite stitch. So that means I'm going to go to each individual square where I've made a previous stitch, put my needle in the bottom left corner, pull through, tug, and then cross over to the top right corner of that same square. Now I think we get the hang of it now. So it's just a matter of going through the remainder of this blue line and then starting with the dark blue. I would go from the top of the right hand corner and now work your way down. I think it's easier to work your way in lines like that than to continue on the perimeter pattern. Good luck, everyone. I'm still working on my final product. Soon I'll display it in the maker place. Share your final product with me by sending me an email. Bye for now.